So I brought all of my images into Lightroom, which is where I'm going to start winnowing out the ones that I want. I made my selection here, and what I did was I highlighted all of them, and to do that I clicked on the first one and I hold down shift and click on the last one I want to highlight, and I'm going to right click on them and then go ahead and go edit in, and then Adobe Photoshop, but I want to go down here to open as layers in Photoshop. And when I click on that, what's going to happen is that's going to bring this over into Photoshop and make individual layers of all of those pictures, so to put them all on the same page. If I just put edit in Photoshop, then what would have happened is it would have brought it over into Photoshop and they would have all been individual images, which I would have had to drag onto one set here. So you can see all of my images are coming up here, and we'll see which final ones we'll actually want to keep. And it takes a little bit of time for them to come up, but they do all eventually come in there. All right, let's see, I think we have one more. Okay. All right, so we have all of these. Now this image is a nice one in the fact that it would be easy to, I think, copy this one or select it. So I'm going to make a quick selection, because what I want to do is I want to select out one of these bottles, and that's going to be used for my selection for the whole rest of the process. So this is the bottle that I'm going to use, and it came up to the top, so that's good. And this is the one with the with all of the lights on, and you can see, oh man, that thing is dirty down there. So I'm going to take my selection tool and I'm going to drag it on through here and see how well this covers everything here. And I'll add that. And actually, that made a pretty decent selection. Oh, in the bottom here. I want to make sure I take my reflection with it. Although we could create a reflection in Photoshop, I'm just going to use the one I have here. And this is quite dusty, so it will require a little bit of Photoshop work afterwards. I'm not sure if I'll show you all of that. I just basically want to show you how to put all this together first. Now, if this was a client's advertising photo, I would take a lot more time in selecting and cleaning up all the images. But I'll clean up all the images at the end. So now that I've made this selection, I want to make a copy or put that into a mask. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this on 03. I'm going to go ahead and keep that there. So I'm going to click on that. And now I have a mask selection of that particular bottle there. So when I hold down Alt and click on this eyeball, it shows the single one. And it shows the selection. You can see that it's not 100% perfect, but it'll work for what we need. You know, I'm just too much a stickler for having it right. So let me just get my brush tool here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm work on this mask a little bit. I'm gonna make a hard brush. So 100%, yeah, and everything's at 100% good. So let me just make a couple selections here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click right there, hold down my shift and click right there, click actually, holding down my shift still, clicked up there, and then bring it on in. There we go. And I'll get a little smaller brush, and I'm increasing and decreasing the size of the brush by using my keyboards, the bracket keys that are right next to the P. All right, so that looks okay, that looks okay. The rest of it, I'm gonna live with. So Command 0 puts this back to full screen, and then I hold down my Alt and click on this eyeball again, and that brings us all back to where we were. So what I want to do is I want to take and put all of these into a folder. So I'm gonna highlight all of my bottles, clicked on all of them, and I'm gonna go ahead and put them into a group. And now, so these are all grouped together. So what I will do is I will take this mask here and I will press Alt and drag it on down to the folder and let go. And now what's gonna happen is that on this folder, that mask is gonna apply to all of them below there, so that you can see that once I turn this off, that all the rest of them below it have that mask on. So the next thing I want to do is I want to set all of these to lighten mode, because I only want the light part to come out on all these pictures here. So I'm going to highlight one, click on another one, and go ahead up here and up to the modes and go down to lighten and click on lighten. And we can see right away that we have a pretty cool look so far. I mean, I like the way that all of this is looking. Now, I have this one bright light that's coming through there. I'm not so sure that I want that one. And I don't. I'm gonna get rid of that one completely. See, I don't like the way that that applies to these. Now, just to give you an individual look here as to the way this is set up here, here's my backlight on this product. And then the next one is this light here, which you can see that highlights the top and the bottom. It lights up this bottom down here. This is one of my side lights, which lights up this side here and this part. Actually, the light is right here and reflected on this side. So that's actually the light to the left. So that's lighting up that side. And this is going to be my light to the right, which is going to give my reflection over here. And then we have this part is my top there. Now, I like how it lights up the dial, but I'm not so sure that I want to use that one either. I think this all looks better without it, actually. So yeah, I'm going to go without it, I think. You know, sometimes it's one of those things that you look at it and you go, do I really want it? I'm going to leave it off for right now. So I'm going to leave these two off right now. So let me unhighlight all those. So these are the four that I'm using in this particular composite. I think that looks good. So the next thing I want to do is I want to put a background there. But before I do that, I'm going to click on this mask. And I'm just going to go up here to this layers mask section here. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a feather. And all that's going to do is that's going to feather the edge of the mask there. And let's see, maybe about 0.9, I think. And I think let's disable this mask. Well, I can't disable it actually, because yeah, whenever I do that, it disappears everything. And if I disable the mask, then everything just comes back in. So it gives me a little softer of an edge, and I can see a little bit of a softer edge there. Now, what I want to do at this point is I want to put a background behind this. So I want to add a background. So it's a greenish color, so I'm going to add a green background, I think. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go down here and go ahead to a solid color here and get a solid color on my background here. Now I'm not sure exactly what color green I want, but we'll just go with something roughly in that area and press OK. All right, now what I want to do is I want to bring my background down below my product. Now you can see that the background shows through my product quite a bit here, and that's okay for right now. What I want to do is on this background is I want to make a gradient. So I'm going to go over to my gradient tool, click on that, make sure it's on circular gradient, going from black to white, and I want to make sure that I'm on my mask on the gradient. And I'm just going to drag out right about here and let go. And you see that that's made a gradient all the way around it. Now we still have the bottle that's showing up has that color, and what I'm going to do for that is I want to put a mask over that, but I'm going to have to actually paint that in. So if I go up here to the group area in this group mask right here, and if I hold down my control key, you see that says layer mask thumbnail, and you see that my finger here changes to a little outline, and when I click on that, that's going to make a selection of that mask all the way around my product here. And with that selection made now, what I can do is I can come back down to this gradient mask, and I can go ahead and hit B for my brush tool and make sure that I'm on black there, and I'm going to use my bracket keys to make my brush tool much larger. And this is going to allow me to paint inside of my mask. And you can see that I still have it set to a solid, a sharp edge. I'm going to go ahead and set to a soft edge brush for my next step, because I don't always want to use a solid edge brush. And right here I have a little bit of a masking problem in the center there. You can see that it has created a little island there of selection. So I'm going to put Command D to get rid of that selection. I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller. I'm just going to paint right on over that and get rid of that part of the mask there. Now for some reason that blocked out my color in the background. I actually blocked out the rest of my images here. That's interesting. So that mask part right there is actually, I think, on this mask here. So let me change this back to white Let me see, yes, and that's where it is exactly at. So I actually had a little bit of a selection on my first mask that didn't let that part show through, so it was blocking out that. So now we have our bottle with our gradient green back there. Now maybe not the best color green, but we'll work with that. We can always change that a little bit later. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to put a black background to make that gradient go out into the darkness. So what I want to do is I want to add another solid color, and this time, yeah, we're going to keep it as black. We're going to press OK, and we're going to drop that below the other gradient there. And now we have this nice gradient coming off onto my black mask there and going into black. So I really like the way that looks there. Now I want to make sure that the black doesn't affect it, and I don't think it will, because that's the bottle is still showing through its natural color, so I do like that. Now I don't like this green so much. Let me see if I can adjust this down to maybe darker color green here. Yeah, we'll maybe stop right there. I think that green looks a little better than the other green that I had. So now the final process here is that I want to add some color to the bottle so the bottle matches in with this green. And I'm going to do that by going inside the group here and actually clicking on the one bottle that is right above the top layer of bottles in that group. And I'm going to add a hue saturation mask to it. I'm going to click on that. And this is going to add a hue saturation. And now theoretically, this should only affect the stuff that's on the inside of the bottle. You can see that as I move this around, it's only affecting the inside of my bottle here. So we'll zero that out. We're going to put colorize actually. And so I'm going to move this green over until that green looks like it represents the green in the background here. That's a little bit too much. And it takes a second for my machine to register. And so I got it about 105, and I got my saturation about 25. And that actually looks pretty good. It's blended in not too bad there. Now we do have a sharp edge here. I do want to come back to my group mask here and maybe feather this out just a little bit. So that edge is, although I do want the bottle to look sharp, I want the edge to not look as sharp. So the other thing too that I notice here is that on my green, it's a lot of green in here, and I don't think the green would come that far in. I think it would be around the edge of my dispenser, the cap part, but I don't think the green would go all the way through all of the cap there. So I'd have some white in the center here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here to my hue saturation mask, and I'm going to go ahead and get my brush tool, which I'm already on, and I'm going to switch this back to black, and I'm going to bring my flow down to about 50%, maybe 32% is fine, and reduce this a little bit. And I'm going to come across the middle here of this cap, and let me make this a little bit bigger. And what I'm doing is I'm going through the middle of it just to make it so that it blends a little bit better. I think that blends a little better here. Now, just to make sure that I don't mess it up, I want to go ahead and make another selection so that I can't go outside of my boundaries here as I'm painting onto this mask here. So in fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of it completely into this cap, and then I'm going to reverse my colors. So I'm going to press X and then switch the foreground color to white. And then what I want to do is I want to come along the edge here and just hit the edges, because I think that's where that green would come on in. Yeah, see, that looks much better to me. Now, of course, this is subjective to whoever's doing this. You know, you might have different thoughts on it. You might say, no, John, that doesn't look correct at all. But to me, it does. It looks about right. And then Command D to get rid of my coloring. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and put that back on there for a sec. And again, the nice thing about it is I can click on any of these masks to produce that selection. And what I want to do is I'm going to paint right on the inside here. Yeah, let that green come up from the bottom there a little bit. And that side looks like it needs a tiny bit more. And then the green blending off into the outside also sells that as part of the image here. All right, so I think that pretty much does it. Let me close this up to make this all nice and neat here. So my group 1 here, you know, I could label it as bottle. And then I have the color fill number 1, which is the green, which is the gradient going out. And I have the back color fill, which is all black. And you can see that that looks just fantastic. Now, if you have any problems on your color fill layer, let's say you're getting some banding or something like that, which I don't see in this. But if you are getting banding, you can go up to image to mode. And then, oh, it's already at 16-bit. Yeah, I was gonna say if it was on 8-bit, you see some banding sometime. That's why I don't see it right now. But on 16-bit, you don't get that banding when you make the gradient. So you always want to edit in 16-bit. So anyway, this is the final image here that I have that I blended together. And you see that we did that all with just a single flash unit. And we'll do some more of those again, of course. But you don't really need a whole big old studio to shoot this. You can actually do this with a single flash and some Photoshop and working with layers. Now, I'm not an expert at Photoshop by any means, but I know enough to get myself in trouble, and I know enough to work on stuff like this. So if you like this, please do subscribe below and leave any comments you have down below. And I will definitely be doing more of these and showing you how to make studio lighting with simple lights. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you will all see me later.